0, 1.
Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Texas Narcos Podcast. Today, I'm very honored to have a special guest on today. This guest, he needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. So, today's guest is a master Texas peace officer with nearly 2 decades of experience. He's held almost every position that you could have in law enforcement, from county jailer to deputy sheriff to patrol supervisor to school resource officer to criminal investigator, and there's probably something else in there that I'm forgetting. And his current assignment is as a supervisor of a investigative unit at a Texas sheriff's office. So without any further introduction, I would like to welcome Jim to the Texas Narcos Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. You forgot that I was a mental health officer at one point.
I know. I figured I'd forget something. So, all right. Well, he's always very good to make sure to correct me if I forget something or I get something wrong. He's always there to keep me going. So, anyhow, Jim, it's a pleasure having you on today. So let's rewind a little bit, and we'll start out with where are you from? You're from all over, right?
Everywhere,
Pretty much everywhere. And I've known this guy for almost 20 years now, and I've learned that there's not too many jobs that he hasn't had. So pretty experienced when it comes to most any things. If there's something I don't know how to do, I just call Jim here, and he can usually figure it out. So let's be more specific to law enforcement. So what made you want to get into being a cop in the first place?
Well, I was working construction. Problem with construction jobs is when the job's done, your employment's done. So I had saved up some money, had a young family, and went down to the college to find some sort of course that I could take that was approximately under a year long that would result in a good paying job with benefits.
Okay. And so you go down to the college and you go to check into the police academy, or how did that happen?
No, I had actually gone, this kind of dates me a little bit, but I'd gone to the public library to use a computer and looked up good paying jobs that the education requirement took less than a year to obtain a certification or a license. And I'd gone to the college to actually sign up to be a x-ray technician, to go to x-ray tech school.
Nice.
They ended up finding out that I was working as a county jailer. Okay. And they told me that x-ray tech school had a 2-year backlog in order to get in, and they said I was a direct admit to the police academy because of the current license that I held. So I figured, okay, I'll do that until I find a real job.
All right. And that was nearly 20 years ago, and here we are.
Still looking for that other job.
That's funny. So that's about the time that our paths crossed, and this was down in San Antonio, Texas, at the San Antonio College Police Academy. So if anybody
that's right.
is listening, is familiar with that particular academy, they refer to it as SAC. It was a old, rundown, dilapidated building that had clay pipes, and it was an old part of town. I'm hoping that it's already been rebuilt, or it's still the same building. I'm not sure.
It has.
Okay, that's good. So anyhow,
our building was condemned.
It was condemned. That is true. But I guess I was, having a condemned building, I was still able to keep the number one spot in the academy all the way through graduation. And my friend Jim here was, he was number 2.
Well, actually, this is supposed to be a factual podcast, and if it's factual, I was actually number 1, and you were number 2.
Well, let's say it's based on fact. I don't know. We go back and forth. Anyhow, so moving right along. So you graduate the police academy, and then what?
started applying for jobs. Back then, getting into law enforcement was a difficult task. I ended up accepting a reserve position with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, working the east side.
Nice.
On patrol.
East side of San Antonio.
Overnights.
Ooh. That definitely sounds like a exciting place to cut your teeth on. Is there why don't you tell me about, so you're in there, you're brand new out of the academy, a reserve officer, doing this for free, and what happens? They partner you up with an old vet, and y'all just get out there and start kicking butt, or what? Like, how does that go?
No, it was a lot slower than that. So they sign you up, and I don't know anything about Bexar County currently. Haven't been there in a long time, but they sign you up, and they swear you in, and then you've got to go on your own time, but on their schedule, to a lot of courses to get you, in essence, indoctrinated into the way Bexar County does things.
Gotcha.
And then finally, once you've done the required number of courses that they want you to do, you can they find a place for you to go. They find you a home, and due to where I lived, mine was going to be the east side, so I was housed out of east side sub.
Okay. So you get out there, your first day, second day, you check on 1041, you're 10-8, and you're out there. I understand you had a very eventful, was it the first shift or the second shift?
Oh, I know where you're going. Actually, before I even talk about that, one of the funnier things that happened to me was, we went through the academy with the revolvers.
Right.
We were the last academy class with revolvers at San Antonio College. And
it's true.
During that time, I had picked up a weapon to carry concealed, and it was a baby Glock, a Glock 26. When I was in that indoctrination process I was talking about with Bexar County, I didn't know what gun to carry, and I went there when they scheduled my qualification. You had to go schedule it in person for a couple days later, and I asked them. I said, "What firearm am I permitted to carry?" Because you had to buy your own as a reservist. Right. And they said, "Any gun that you want, as long as it's a Glock 22 40 caliber pistol."
Nice. And you had to go buy one.
I had to go buy one. I had to turn one up within a week so I could qualify, so I could start actually cutting my teeth on law enforcement.
Wow. So, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So, this will date us a little bit too, but it's the middle of summertime, South Texas, south of San Antonio, at the Black Hawk Range, and we're out there with 6-shot revolvers, 2 speed loaders, and we're going through the qualification course with wad cutter, reloaded 38 special ammunition that was so dirty. And we're doing the time reloads with the speed loaders, the whole 9 yards. We weren't allowed to even think about touching a semi-automatic pistol. And then after you're done, you've shot all afternoon. It's 110 degrees outside, and you have to go sit underneath a shed in the heat, and you had to take a dentist tool and a scrub brush, and you had to get all the lead out of this gun until it was acceptable, until the instructor thought it was clean enough, and then you got to go home. So thankfully it's not like that anymore, but I think that is some character building stuff, and I think it makes you a better shooter. It
did build character, and once you can shoot a Smith & Wesson, double action revolver, we didn't cock the hammer or any. Everything was double action. Once you can shoot one of those well, you can shoot anything well.
Yeah, I agree. So, so you get your Glock 22, you go buy some bullets, you get to your shift, you get to your FTO, you get in the car, and tell me what happens that shift. I understand y'all had a call to a bar.
So my first shift, I was talking to the folks there, and I wanted full-time employment because I was working still in the field that I was trying to get out of, and I was talking to my lieutenant at the time, who told me if I volunteer a lot, work a lot of shifts, I can do a lot. So my first shift was really uneventful. It was not a weekend. It was like a Wednesday, maybe Thursday night, and nothing really happened.
Okay.
Same week, I went back for my second shift. Second day on duty as policeman, and we did have a pretty crazy call while I was trying to learn my district that I was working.
Okay. So you get called to was it a disturbance? Was it a shooting? What was it? It was at a bar, wasn't it?
So yeah, I didn't even have a call. I was learning my district, and my partner, John, was taking me around, showing me places that we respond to regularly on a weekend, and this was a weekend. And he was taking me around, showing me places, and we went to this one bar. And when we went there, he turns the corner and he's driving me in front of it, and I see this green Jeep Grand Cherokee. The parking lot is full. This place is going, and the parking lot's full. I see this Jeep Grand Cherokee, and I see a guy and some legs dangling out of the window, and I instantly notice I'm riding in the passenger seat of this Crown Vic, and I see shiny, sparkly things on the ground, and I realize that it's broken glass from this window that this man's hanging in.
Nice.
So I tell John, hey, I think he's breaking into that car. So I stop, make contact with him. I detain him. When I walk up behind him, he's oblivious, doesn't even know I'm there. And he's trying to take the radio out of this car, the stereo, the deck.
Right.
And end up detaining him. I passed him off to my training officer, my partner, John. Hand him off. He's putting him in the car, and John tells me, he says, you got that little notebook in your pocket? And of course, I had a little notebook in my pocket and a pen, and I pull it out, and he says, write the license plate number down, go into that building and have the DJ announce that over there, and see if we get the owner out here, see if they want to press charges.
Okay.
I said, sure. So I write the number down, and here I go walking, and I'm walking up to the bar. They got a bouncer at the door. And I'm walking by this 8-foot mirrored window with the bar's name on it. And I'm walking by, and all of a sudden, in a split second, life slowed down.
Okay.
I hear pops. Pop, 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 pop. And then before I even realized what had happened, something had hit me in the face, and it was glass.
Wow.
And time had really slowed down, and I realized I think someone's shooting at me.
First day.
Second day as a cop.
Second day, I'm sorry. Second day, East Side, San Antonio. You think you're just going to collar a guy for stealing a radio out of a car. Next thing you know, you got glass popping, hitting you in the face, gunshots, and you're like, oh, crap. What did I sign up for?
So it got real interesting there, because I'm not joking when I say time slowed down. And also, I didn't really hear all the noise that was going on instantly. I heard the pops. I didn't hear anything else. And once it kind of settled into my mind, I think someone's shooting at me. I said, I better go in there. So I ran in. The bouncer held the door open for me. I ran in, and I look to my right as I'm crossing the door threshold, and I see my partner, John, slam the door of the Crown Vic, and he's now running across the parking lot. He obviously has realized what's going on.
Right.
I don't know that everything's fully set in with me yet. And I run in the door. I'm fumbling to get my gun out of the holster, and I start yelling at everybody to get on the ground. Everybody get on the ground.
Now, when you say everybody, how many people are we talking? 20, 30, 40?
I would say there's at least 70 people inside there.
Okay.
Everybody get on the ground. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea who just shot at me. It's sinking in now that someone did just shoot at me, or at least shoot at the window that I was standing next to.
Right.
And I got to get to the bottom of what's going on. I'm no longer worried about getting the DJ to call this license plate number out over the radio or over the speakers. So my partner runs in, and I don't even see him. He's off to my left side, and he runs in, and he's bumping me in the shoulder. And finally, I look over at him. He bumps me 4 or 5 times, and I said, "What?" And he says, "Are you good?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm good." He goes, he says, "Who shot at you?" I said, "I don't know. The window just exploded." So right now, the club is loud, and now I'm hearing everything that's going on. There's people screaming. They're laying on the ground, and I still don't know who did this. Well, my partner kind of takes charge, and he sees a guy back in the corner at one of those little round tables that you have in a bar.
Right.
2 or 3 people can sit at it, and he's sitting there, and he's the only guy in the room not complying and getting on the ground. And my partner, he's a little guy, but he has a huge voice, and he is giving command after command after command. And this guy finally just goes ahead and he lays down. He's now a subject of interest because of his noncompliance. Some more guys get there. Luckily, on the east side of San Antonio, you're never far from backup.
Right.
I hadn't even thought about getting on the radio that they gave me that was on my hip to tell anybody that was going on.
Right.
But John did. And
that's good.
He had a whole bunch of people there. Ended up getting that guy, detaining him. The other units once they arrived, started checking everybody for weapons and getting everybody out in the parking lot. And me and John were kind of ushered away by our sergeant.
Okay.
Who had arrived on scene. He gets there. There's an on-scene investigation going. I'm kind of in a daze, not realizing what's going on. My sergeant asked me what happened. I told him what happened, gave him my brief details of what I had, and ultimately, the man that was back in the corner, the one who wasn't complying, admitted to he was highly intoxicated. He had some criminal warrants, and he thought we were there to arrest him.
Oh wow! All that, and so he's the one who shot at the window.
He was. He saw us. So where he was seated in the back of that club was near that large glass window, and like I said, it was mirrored, so I couldn't see in, but they could see out.
Gotcha.
Everybody that was inside the club. And he was ultimately the one. He said that he thought we were there in his intoxicated state to arrest him. So he had a handgun on him, and he saw a deputy walking up me and started shooting at me.
Wow. Just like that. Second day on the job, and you got people shooting at you because they thought you were there to arrest them, when all you were trying to do is go in there and find the owner of that car and tell them that their car got broken into. Wow. It just goes to show you, everything could change in the matter of an instant. So, well, there are quite a few stories that I'm sure that we could get into about your time at the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. However, I think we're going to leave that story as our last Bexar County story for today, and let's transition into the place that you're currently at. So you move from there and you get a job with a sheriff's office up in a Central Texas area.
Mm-hmm.
About 2009.
2009, yeah.
2009. Okay, and that's where you're at currently. And I know this because I was there when you showed up and, was involved in getting you up here. And so let's talk about the place that you came to work at. It's been called, there's been a term that's used for this particular place called the Bermuda Triangle of law enforcement because, well, I'll let you explain. Why is this place called the Bermuda Triangle of law enforcement?
If it's strange and it can happen, it will.
And things happen here that don't happen anywhere else.
That's correct.
Okay. So you show up here, you work patrol for a little while, and you eventually move up to a patrol supervisor, and then you go into criminal investigations, and like I said, now you're a supervisor. So let's go back to one particular story that I think is quite comical. So you're actually a criminal investigator at the time, and you're working on a missing persons case. Now, during this period of time, I had been promoted to CID, so had already been promoted to be a detective. However, due to staffing shortages on patrol, I was still working a patrol shift as a detective. So I get called out to this scene to assist you and some other investigators on locating a missing person. Right. So
Yeah, right.
I'm going to let you kind of give as much of the backstory as you want to, and then we will go into what happens next.
So the short version of it is that morning I was in CID Criminal Investigations Division, and me and my partner were Crimes Against Children investigators, and we had a missing child that was an at-risk child, I would say.
When I say child, are we talking about a kid, or are we talking about like a teenager?
Teenager.
Okay.
So we first thing in the morning we get to work. My partner was real big on coffee, so he's drinking his coffee, and the next thing we know, we're being ordered to the boss's office, the sheriff's office, and we get called into the sheriff's office, and he says, "Look, the two of you are assigned this case. Find this kid, find him today, and do it now."
All right.
We have very little intel. We just have a very basic report, and that was the orders we got. So we started working.
All right. Sounds like a career opportunity.
It was a career opportunity.
All right. So your investigation leads you to a house, and y'all get there. Y'all believe that this teenager is inside this house, and you guys kind of set up in the driveway, and y'all call for some patrol backup, and that's how I get involved. So I show up, and we make entry into the house.
Well, there was a lot that happened before we made entry into the house.
Okay. Well, I'll let you fill in the blanks, because I got there as a patrol officer. I wasn't privy to all the prior stuff. All I know is I got there, and they were like, "Hey, come with us. You have a uniform on. We're going to go in this house and get this kid." And I'm like, "Okay, let's go." So why don't you enlighten me to the backstory?
So we show up to this house, and we do what we do. We knock on the door. We make contact with some people. We tell them we're looking for this missing child. And instantly, we're met with aggression. We are met with massive amounts of aggression. And the people tell us to leave the property. We tell them we're not leaving, that we need to talk with them. We need to find this child. We try to explain to them why you guys are being so hostile. We're just looking for this person. We have some legal issues. We work our way through those. We call for more assets. And during that time, the people inside the house, we're now off the property, but still to where we can see it. They are coming out. I know this sounds weird. Dressed aggressively.
Dressed aggressively. Okay. Like they wanted to fight?
Right. So they went from pajamas and t-shirts to now they're coming out screaming at us on the porch, and they're wearing black pants and BDU shirts, and they have chains hung on their clothing.
Right on. Okay.
Very odd.
Okay.
So we definitely think we're at the right place now.
I got you. So I pull up, we go in the front door, and as I recall it, the man that answers the door, somehow or another, the determination is made that he needs to be detained. And I remember you were standing behind him or next to him, and I was standing directly in front of him. And all I know is that you had his right hand in your hand. And the next thing I know, the right hand that was in your hand comes loose and hits me square in the nose.
Okay, so that did happen, but not exactly that way.
Well, that's the way it looked to me. So how did it actually happen?
So we knocked on the door. We had more people there. We had uniformed officers, and we've met all of our legal demands, and now we are going in the house.
Okay.
It's not an option anymore. We're going in there. We believe that this child's in there. And we go in the house. This man is being still very, very aggressive. And we decide we're going to detain him. In fact, the patrol sergeant that was there decided he's getting detained and gave the word, at which point I grabbed him. I did grab his right hand. I also grabbed his left hand, and I was putting a handcuff on it when he decided that you needed to be punched in the face.
All right. I just had that kind of look on my face. That looked like I needed to be punched in the face.
I guess so.
It's it actually is true what they say, that all your plans are good. You have all the plans in the world, and they're all great until you get punched in the nose. And that's what happened. So I get punched in the nose. Next thing I know, I see a taser come out. I see the guy get tased. He's on the ground.
I also got tased.
Like with the prongs, or like you got hit with the.
I got hit with the wires. It was the secondary tase, but I also took a bit of a ride that day.
Well, maybe you should have held on to the guy's arm better. So
I was handcuffing him.
All right. Well, so he gets handcuffed, and you escorted me out the door, out to the back of a pickup truck that was in the yard, and you set me down. And I'm thinking, my buddy's gonna, he's gonna render aid to me. He's gonna take care of me. He's gonna make sure I don't have a broken nose. He's gonna do some medical aid to me, get the, EMS called, whatever. That's not what happened. So the next thing I see is your phone come out. I'm like, oh, wow. Maybe he's going to call EMS for me. And what do?
I took a photo of you. That way I had a photo of you with a broken nose and a bloody face for whenever you called me.
So this was over 10 years ago. And to this day, if I call him, my picture comes up with me with a bloody face and a bloody uniform. So I appreciate that. Anyhow, so I'm sitting there on the back of this truck, and you got your picture, and you're back in the house. So you go back in the house. The guys that punched me, he's been detained. He's been taken outside. As I recall, there was some stuff that got thrown out of the front door, and it was just kind of a wild scene. People getting detained. Now, you go back in to continue.
Do you remember the trash can?
I do remember the trash can. It went flying across the yard, and I'm kind of feeling helpless at this point. I'm bleeding, but you guys look like you had it under control. So I just kind of let things play out. But so you go inside to clear the house and look for this kid, and tell me what happens.
So me and one of my partners, one of the other investigators, we're making our way down a hall. And we come to the end of the hall in this house, and we open the door, and this room was very strange. The floor, it was a carpeted room, but the floor is completely lined with mattresses and box springs.
Okay.
Now, the mattresses are not on the box springs. They're separated, and they're all lining the floor. So the whole floor in this room is, in essence, covered with beds or mattresses and or box springs.
It's a big, giant bed. The room is a bed.
The room is in essence a bed. Now, I don't know who wants to lay in a box spring, but that was, they were there. So don't see anybody, but I see two closet doors, and my partner comes in there with me, and I'm taking lead, and I said, I'm going to go clear those closets, and he says, I got cover. So I start walking over to clear the closets, and we had a dress code as investigators. So you had to wear long sleeves and a tie, and you could either wear dress shoes or cowboy boots. Well, I chose cowboy boots. They're more comfortable. So I'm walking across these mattresses and box springs, and my foot falls through one of the box springs and gets kind of trapped in there. Okay. And I'm at a loss for what to do. I'm pulling on my foot, my boot's coming off. And finally, I pull my foot out of my boot, and I'm going to work on getting the boot in a minute. But now I have my hand on one of these two closet doors. So I pull on the closet door, and the first thing I notice is there is a hand on the inside door handle of this closet door.
Nice.
and it pulls the door closed.
I think we call that a clue.
Yes, that was definitely a clue. So now I reach down. I'm wearing one boot with a white sock and some khaki pants sticking out there, and I reach down, and one of the mattresses that I'm kind of standing on, I flip that mattress over so I'm able to open this closet door without obstruction because it's getting hit. And I open the closet door, and here's this kid that I've just spent the entire last day of my life looking for, my whole work day, and we're well into after hours by now. And he's standing there dressed head to toe in camouflage with a mask over his face. But the more concerning part was he has a hatchet in his right hand raised above his shoulder, and he tries to swing it at me.
Nice.
My partner is running towards me, and he experienced the box spring dilemma that I had also gone through. And
nice.
He's working on getting himself unstuck. I didn't know what to do, so I just grabbed the hatchet as the kid's swinging it at me and pulled it out of his hand, at which point we're able to get the kid out of there. And he is non-compliant, does not want to be recovered, I guess. In any way whatsoever.
Right.
And he, we're there to recover, and we ended up having to detain him too and call his parents because we couldn't, he was so non-compliant. He wouldn't do anything.
That was an interesting day. I still have the picture, as well, of me covered in blood. And I'm glad that it ended the way it did. So shortly thereafter, after that happened, a spot opened up. Well, I guess they got enough people on patrol, and I moved into CID, and in which time that we started to work together, on a regular basis.
I did get my boot back.
You did get okay. Well, that's good. That's good. So
I did.
I'm glad you got your boot back. So, well, that's awesome. So, I do want to hear about another story about you trying to locate a person inside of a house in which there was a issue. This time the person didn't necessarily come out of a closet, but they came from a different place. However,
I know what you're talking about.
I think we're going to save that until our next episode when we have you on, because I have a feeling that we could have you on here as a regular guest and have plenty of stories to talk about from the Bermuda Triangle of law enforcement. That is the place that we work. So, but until next time, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And we will catch you down the road on Texas Narcos. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Texas Narcos Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, share our podcast with your friends and family. You can find Texas Narcos Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Your continued support helps us to bring you stories like the one you just heard. Thank you, God bless, and we'll see you down the road on Texas Narcos.